Okay, everyone. Last chapter, woohoo! Chapter 12. So when we talk about compliance, it means following all the laws, regulations, and coding guidelines that are set by national standards, Medicare, and payers, right? So every healthcare organization has a compliance department that works with CDI and the coding departments to make sure the facility is compliant. So this chapter is going to talk about compliance in terms of billing and auditing. I've mentioned unbundling before. That's when a coder separately codes all the parts of something when they should only be using one code in order to get like higher reimbursement. This is considered Medicare abuse. Another instance of abuse is upcoding, which is when a coder assigns a procedure code that's more complex than what the patient actually got in order to get a higher payment. Both of these things are technically overpayments, which Medicare defines as one that exceeds regulation and statute properly payable amounts. Now, if this Medicare abuse, like unbundling or upcoding, is widespread or ongoing, like a continual problem, then it's considered fraud. The Office of the Inspector General, or OIG, was created in the 1970s, and one of their foundational guidelines is the use of audits and evaluation techniques to monitor this compliance, so to make sure there's no fraud or abuse going on. Every year, the OIG will publish a list of areas that they want the healthcare organization to review. And so that's what the facility is going to focus their audits and reviews on. The OIG also recommends having a coding compliance plan that has all of the policies and procedures for, how to accurately assign codes and stay compliant. And how audits are done and what risk areas that they've identified. Okay. Compliant billing just means the process of providers creating bills that are compliant with all the rules and regulations, etc. When they have compliant bills or claims, then they have a lower chance of being investigated for fraud and abuse. And then also because if they're billing incorrectly, they could have denied claims or delays in processing claims, reduced payments, and worse, fines or sanctions. Okay, they do not want that. So billing departments have to clearly define, which codes can be bundled so that coders don't make that mistake on accident. They have to have clear training on this and also on what modifiers to use, all those guidelines. Okay, Medicare and all the commercial payers are going to each have their own billing guidelines or rules on how they want claims submitted. So you have to be, if you're in this department, you have to be familiar with each set of rules. They do have these things called job aids, like a plan summary sheet. It's basically like a cheat sheet or quick reference guide of the billing and reimbursement process for an insurance plan. So it'll have what are covered and not covered services, medical necessity requirements, pre-authorization requirements, things like that. And it's just something that they can quickly reference, so they're not having to dig through books or online. They can just quickly see, okay, this is how I need to do it. Another important thing that should be included is the rules on bundling procedures and services, or when multiple procedures are done at the same time. So how to go about that. Okay, we're going to skip over global surgical package. All right, a little more detail here on bundling. A lot of times surgical package codes are bundled. So all the things that have to happen for the procedure to be done will be included in this one bundled code, right? The rule says that if a claim is received for a code that has a service that has to be bundled, then the claim will be denied. So if they get a claim with a code for, I can't think of an example, that should be part of that bundled package, right? It's supposed to be in this bundle only, then they're going to deny it. They will never make a payment for this. And then when they see that, you unbundled something, it could cause raise a red flag and cause you to be audited by Medicare or the commercial payer. Okay. All right. Medicare publishes their rules on correct coding in the National Correct Coding Initiative, or NCCI, and they update it every quarter. And this is just to help providers and facilities to not have coding errors, which causes claims denials, right? It's just another guide for them where it's all in one place. Okay, we're not going to worry about this slide either. Mutually exclusive code edits are services that cannot reasonably be performed at the same anatomic site or at the same time. So they cannot be billed together, okay? Medically unlikely edits correct coding mistakes based on anatomic considerations. So these are like, stick with me, the maximum number of units of service that are allowed by the same provider for the same beneficiary or patient on the same day. Okay, and this is mostly just to help cut back on clerical errors. Someone accidentally adding an extra zero. The MUE system will catch that and say, wait, no, you can't do that many times in one day. If there's a situation where there does need to be extra units of service, then you can use a modifier to report that. Okay, the compliance officer in a facility will be regularly monitoring the coding and billing cycle to make sure everyone's following the policies and procedures. They'll periodically do internal audits to make sure any new procedures or treatments are being coded correctly. Concurrent audits are just verifying this billing compliance before submitting the claim. That way, your chances of being denied are lower. Hopefully you would catch if there is an error before ever submitting the claim. Then retrospective audits are good because you can pull from all of the claims that have already been submitted and the records are complete. Okay, so you can reference the remittance advice, which will say, if there was a denial or a payment reduction, what the reasoning was. So it just kind of gives you a fuller picture of what's going on. An external audit is when a private payer or a government investigator will come in and look at the records and claims to check for code linkage and to make sure that they're following all of the coding guidelines and everything, okay? Usually this is triggered by if they get a lot of claims with unbundling or upcoding or something like that, then they'll send in this external auditor or investigator. So you never want that to happen. Okay, and there are a few more slides, but we're not going to go over them for this class, so we are finished. So go ahead, answer your last set of bell ringer questions, and start studying for your final. Good luck.